Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Season 8 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'll be covering Xayah, the Rebel.
I can never resist an invitation to dance.
Alright, so let's kick off this champion guide by first looking at her pros. She is a champion that has some very good wave clear because she does have multiple AoE abilities, and her E will do a lot of damage to minions if you do have a lot of feathers. She also has an ultimate that makes her untargetable, which is great against things like Zed's ultimate, and she has some pretty long range poke as well. Her E ability is one of the strongest roots in the game as well, because if you can pull a lot of feathers through a team, you have the ability to root an entire enemy team. Finally, since Xayah does have so many AoE abilities and a really nice attack speed steroid in her W, she's also an excellent pusher. She will be able to push minion waves really quickly and also shred the towers with the attack speed from the W. Now Xayah, like every other champion in League, does have her fair share of cons as well, and the first one is that she requires setup time. In small engagements and in team fights, you must set up a bunch of feathers so you can actually use your E ability for its really high damage and its root. This will do an absolute ton of damage, but you do have to spend a bit of time auto-attacking with your passive to get these feathers on the map. She is also a fairly immobile champion, so she does really require some solid positioning, and you must also keep track of your feathers. At least 3 must hit your target for them to be rooted, and if you don't land all 3 on a target, you may end up having a pretty bad fight. Finally, poke lanes are going to be pretty hard for you. You're not the strongest champion early on, and you are pretty immobile, so those poke lanes are going to be very annoying to deal with. For your runes, you want to go for precision and sorcery, grabbing fleet footwork as your keystone. This will give you some really nice extra lane sustain and also give you some nice movement speed at 100 stacks, which makes it great on Xayah. I then like to go for overheal, so my excess healing becomes a shield on myself, and alacrity so I get attack speed from takedowns. Then I'll finish up by getting coup de grace so I deal more damage to low health enemies, which works great with executing people with your E. Then in the sorcery side, you want to go for the normal combo on AD carries, which is Celerity and Gathering Storm. Celerity will give you some nice extra movement speed, which is great for roaming and positioning in teamfights, and also some extra AD as well. Gathering Storm then gives you increasing AD over time, which of course is going to be fantastic on an AD carry that's looking to hard carry in the late game. For your summoner spells, you'll first want to pick up Flash. Since Xayah doesn't have the best mobility out there, this will give you a really solid escape. Of course, you could always use it offensively as well to finish off somebody too far away from you, but it's also great to flash onto somebody so you will be able to position your feathers properly and pull them through the target and root them. You'll then of course for your second summoner spell want to pick up Heal. Even though it was recently nerfed with a 30-second cooldown increase, it is still by far the best option in the bottom lane because you can use it to save both yourself and your teammates. You can even use that extra movement speed on activation to give you a really nice speed boost so you can chase targets as well. Xayah's passive ability is Clean Cuts, which does damage in a line and leaves a feather behind. This will cause your next 3 basic attacks after you use an ability penetrate through all enemies in a line and also leave a feather at the max range. Now you do have to remember, however, that you can only store 5 empowered attacks, so if you used your Q and your W right away, you would kinda be missing 1 feather in a way. That means you're going to want to manage your feathers as much as possible, and you will want to at least auto attack once in between abilities if it is possible. Having out as many feathers as you can is pretty important because of the nuke on your E based on the feathers it does pull through. Now there is also a second part of your passive called Lover's Leap, which makes it so Xayah and Rakan can recall together. Therefore, if you are playing with a Rakan, if he starts his recall, you can always join in halfway or even later. If you do need to pick up some CS and still go back, you can do that as well. Your Q ability is Double Daggers, which also does damage in a line and leaves 2 feathers on the ground. Each of these feathers does have a 50% AD ratio, which is pretty nice, but it does do 50% damage on targets hit after the first one. That means during the lane phase, usually you're not going to be hitting too hard on the enemy champions because it will usually be hitting minions first. Either way though, this ability is pretty nice because it will instantly generate 2 feathers, which will allow you to use your E right away, but keep in mind you need to hit 3 in order to pull your E through and root the target. It is a decent part of your kit, but it's definitely not the best part. Your W ability is Deadly Plumage, which is your attack speed steroid. When you activate the ability, you will be granted 30 to 50 bonus attack speed for 4 seconds, and your basic attacks will also strike an additional time for 20% damage. If your Deadly Plumage does strike an enemy champion, you will also be granted 30% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. This is going to be great for both kiting enemy champions or chasing them if you do need to. If you are teamed with a Rakan and he is nearby, he will also gain the effects of Deadly Plumage. So this here is obviously one of the best parts of your kit because it is just straight up an attack speed steroid that makes you do 20% more damage on top of it. Therefore, you'll definitely want some points in this ability pretty early on, but your E ability is better, so you do want to max your E first, but this will definitely be the one you want to max second. Use that attack speed to pump out a ton of damage, and the movement speed to either chase or kite. Your E ability is Blade Collar, which is your main source of damage outside of your auto attacks, and also roots the target for 1 second as long as they're hit by at least 3 feathers. So when you do activate this ability, it will call back all feathers to you and deal physical damage to anybody they pass through, and does increase based on your critical chance. Enemies will take between 100% and 10% based on feathers hit damage from feathers halved against minions. Now you will definitely want to make sure you hit at least 3 feathers on your target so they will be rooted so you can easily pump out your damage. The first feather does have a 60% bonus AD ratio, which of course drops every time you do land another feather on the target, but this will hit the target very, very hard if you pull a bunch of feathers through them. Your ultimate is Featherstorm, which does a nice chunk of damage and also makes you untargetable for 1.5 seconds. This ability will also leave 5 feathers behind as well, so you do always have the option of instantly comboing it with your E ability to pull all those feathers through their target so they take a lot of damage and are also rooted. This combo is especially strong in team fights because it will pull it through an entire team if they are clumped up and give you a really devastating team fight. The better use of the ability, however, is as a defensive. If something like Zed ultimates you or something like a Fizz's Shark is coming towards you, you can use this to pop up into the air because you will be untargetable and you will take no damage. It's incredibly busted in that scenario because it is a really solid defensive, but it has offensive uses as well. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then, since it does a really high amount of damage if you get a lot of feathers out, you'll want to max your E ability first. Then I like to focus on maxing my W ability second because it does have a scaling attack speed duration and is incredibly strong on Xayah. Now that of course means you want to save your Q ability for last. Although it is an okay ability, the poke damage isn't that insane because it usually will be hitting minions first, reducing the damage, but you will want to put a point into it early on at level 3 because it is a great way to get 2 feathers out instantly so you can combo with your E. Other than that though, just save it for last. Now let's look at some of your support synergies, and first of course is Rakan. You guys work great together because you are a couple and you each receive benefits from one another. He will have longer ranges with his leap, which is great for engaging and protecting you, and of course you also give him attack speed with your W. He also has a really strong engage and really great peeling as well, so generally he just works really well with Xayah. Another really strong pick with Xayah would be Janna. She's got an excellent amount of peeling and a really nice shield, which is great at keeping Xayah safe. The slow from her W and the pop-up from her Q are also a really solid way to keep people in an area so she can get off her feathers and use her E ability. You guys definitely won't have the strongest offensive lane in the game, but you will have a pretty strong defensive lane. Another pretty strong combo would be with Nami. She's got some really nice lane sustain from her heal, which also pokes the enemy champion. She will also be able to buff you, which is fantastic for Xayah, and she does have some pretty nice peeling with both her bubble and her ultimate. The bubble is also great offensively because if she lands it, you can easily get some feathers out and use your E ability to chain CC, or if you are the one that pulls off her root first, you can use her bubble on top of it to easily chain crowd control as well. Another really nice synergy would be Taric. He's also got some fantastic peeling as well with his stun, but he is also able to make you completely invulnerable for 2 seconds with his ultimate. This will give you more than enough time to build up a bunch of feathers and pull them through your targets with your E. Finally, he's just going to be great at protecting you throughout the lane phase as well because he does have a shield and a really nice heal as well. In the lane phase, you'll first want to focus on farming as much as possible. You are of course an AD carry and your core items are pretty expensive and you really need those in order to carry the game. In between those last hits, you want to be poking with your Q and your passive. These will have a really nice range and they're great for poking the enemy. You want to use both of these to build up your feathers as much as possible and then root the enemy whenever you can with your E. It will do a large chunk of damage onto the enemy and hold them in place so you can easily delete them with your W. Finally, just remember you don't have the best mobility out there, so make sure you position yourself really safely. When teamfighting, you first want to make sure you stay on your team's backline. To do this, you'll obviously have to focus the front line of the enemy team, but make sure you get onto the carries if there is any on that front line. Use your Q, passive, and your W to build up a large chunk of feathers really quickly, and then make sure you pull them through the front line so you have a much easier time kiting and to also chunk the enemies. You can of course use your ultimate as well as an offensive to instantly build 5 feathers, but usually in a team fight I will save that as a defensive in case anybody does jump on top of me. Now let's look at some of your hard matchups, and first up is Caitlyn. Caitlyn will be pretty rough for you because she does have a naturally longer auto attack range, and she will be poking you while you are last hitting. You are definitely a much better team fighter though, so try to just get the farm you can and make it to the team fighting stage of the game where you can definitely outshine Caitlyn. The lane phase will be rough for you, but just pick up whatever you can and get to the later stages of the game. Another fairly hard matchup for you would be Draven. He's a pretty hard champion because he does an absolute ton of damage in the early game, and it's really hard to deal with. In fact, it is so hard to deal with that you may want to start with a Doran's Shield and consider rushing Ninja Tabis just to deal with that basic damage. The good news, however, is that you are a much better team fighter and you are better in the later stages of the game, so make sure you just pick up all the farm you can and then outshine him in the later stages of the game. For your next hard matchup, I've got Jinx. She's another champion that will be able to poke you a lot during the lane phase if she does go into a rocket form. This will be pretty hard to deal with, so just make sure you keep a range on Jinx. She is also a really strong champion in the late game, but I would say you're a much better team fighter. As long as you can remain safe and get a lot of feathers and pull them through the enemy team with your E ability, you should be able to outdamage her in a team fight, so make sure you're focusing on doing that whenever a team fight does break out. And for the last hard matchup here, I've got Twitch. Twitch is one of those champions that if he gets a lead on you, he will be able to delete you over and over again, and there's not too much you can do about it. Xayah of course requires at least a little bit of setup time to get her feathers out, but a Twitch can easily stealth up to you and delete you really quickly with his autos and his E. Therefore, you're going to have to be really careful because if a Twitch gets ahead of you, he is completely AIDS. Alright, now let's finish this off with the item build, which starts with either a Doran's Blade health potion and a warding totem, or a Doran's Shield health potion and a warding totem. I would go for the Doran's Blade as much as I can, but against a really hard lane matchup that's very pokey, I will go for the Doran's Shield. For your core build, you have the Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, and your choice of boots. The Essence Reaver is going to give you a lot of nice mana return and critical strike chance, while also giving you a lot of cooldown reduction based on your crit. Because of this, we make sure we fit in the Rapid Fire Cannon to get a nice chunk of critical strike chance while getting a bunch of attack speed and increased range. Now as for your boots, you will usually want to go for Berserker Greaves to get some nice attack speed, but Ninja Tabis are great against AD teams, and Merc Treads are great against high AP and CC heavy teams. Now for your item pool, you first have the Static Shiv. This is a really solid item because it will further increase your critical strike chance and attack speed, and also give you at least a little bit of minion clear. It was recently nerfed, but it is still a really strong item. Now since you are going for a high crit build, an Infinity Edge is also a fantastic item. It's going to give you some nice attack damage and critical strike chance while also giving you increased crit damage. If you're then looking for some lifesteal options, you can go for either the Bloodthirster or a Mercurial Scimitar. The Bloodthirster is a fantastic option because it will give you a nice defensive shield, which is great at taking in poke damage, but the Merc Scimitar is really strong against high AP teams that do have a lot of CC. In the late game, if you need armor penetration, you can get either LDR or Mortal Reminder. I will usually go for LDR whenever I can because it increases your damage, but if you really need a Grievous Wounds, then you will want to go for Mortal Reminder. If the enemy team does have a lot of AP assassins, you may want to go for a Maw. It will give you a really nice defensive shield when you do take a bunch of magic damage, which can give you a lot of survivability. Then finally, the last defensive option that does have some nice attack damage at the same time would be the Guardian Angel. The AD is pretty nice, but that defensive shield that allows you to come back to life in the later stages of the game is also incredibly strong. For my example full build though, I take that core build, get some Berserker Greaves, then get an Infinity Edge, Static Shiv, and Guardian Angel. You will have a 100% crit chance, so you will be pumping out an insane amount of damage because you'll have a lot of attack speed at the same time, and you have the really nice defensive and the Guardian Angel in case you do die in the late game. And that's all I've got for AD carry Xayah. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and visit my video description below. I have a link to all my social medias, and I do also have a Discord server, so that's one you should definitely check out. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching, I really do appreciate it, so take it easy, have a good day, and peace.